Hi, today is April 12th, 2026, and here are my poems for the day. The first one is poem number 564 for the year, the Oloid. The Oloid, with its laminar flow, wobbles and weebles to and fro. In one rotation it touches the ground at every point, and it was found by Paul Schatz, who discovered it without trying. To turn a cube inside out was his goal, which turned up void. But his work yielded an accidental Oloid. Poem number 565, the Occluded. The Occluded was completely covered up and indiscernible, which was a shame because the Occluded was quite beautiful, statuesque, and inspiring. It would have meant a lot to a lot of people if the Occluded could have somehow been visible to them, but in order for it to be visible to them, the Occluded would have had to have not been occluded, in which case, of course, the Occluded could no longer be referred to as the Occluded, because it would no longer be occluded. If this is confusing or obscure, then that is appropriate. The Occluded is meant to be occluded. Poem number 566, the According to Hoyle Monster. Whenever they played a game and broke or even bent a rule, the monster would appeal and growl, "According to Hoyle," over and over. The monster would not quote the rule according to Hoyle or according to anyone else. It would just growl according to Hoyle until an adjustment was made, at which point gameplay could resume. The According to Hoyle monster was kind of a pain in the dick, but it kept everyone honest, and it ensured that gameplay remained within the proper parameters. Poem number 567, Shame. There's a kind of shame that a person who is trying to quit drinking gets when they drink again. I saw it in the face of a fellow I know from around the way. It was in his gait, too, as he stumbled towards me. Hoping I hadn't recognized him, he turned his face to a wall and stood there until I passed. The next time I see him, I won't ask him how he's doing, because then he'll know I saw him, and he is ashamed enough already. Poem number 568, the Macaroona. He wanted to hire a choreographer and develop a dance for a new song he was thinking about writing called the Macaroona, but every time he mentioned this idea to anyone, including any choreographers, he would get punched right in the face. Eventually, he gave up on the idea of writing a song called the Macaroona. In fact, hardly anyone would even know about the idea if it wasn't for this stupid poem that I really hope no one punches me in the face for. Poem number 569, The Incontinence of Politeness. When he felt it coming on, he knew he would be unable to contain it, and that soon his politeness would gush out of him in rivers and rivulets and occasional chunks. Poem number 570, last poem of the day. On and on. I could go on and on about endlessness, endlessly going on, or I could go on and on about endlessness and the rest of Roy Andersson's impossibly wonderful films, or I could go on and on about you, which would be far more interesting than me going on and on about me, or I could go on and on about On and On by Stephen Bishop, but I'd rather go on and on about On and On by Erykah Badu, even though I had never heard On and On by Erykah Badu, and in fact, I only learned of its existence just now when I looked up the lyrics to On and On by Stephen Bishop to see if maybe I wanted to quote them in this poem, but I don't. All right, that's it. Thank you. I appreciate you.